Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. We are live. It's Whiteboard Wednesday, and we have an awesome guest here today, Mackenzie Babichenko, who has one of the coolest names in the Commonwealth as well, and who is also a Virginia Commonwealth attorney. We're going to hear more about her work and some of the important issues affecting all of us here in the Commonwealth. So glad to have you here. Thank you, Mackenzie, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So let's jump in. We're having people joining us, and we're simulcast across a few different platforms. Just want to share with us a little bit about yourself, your journey, what brought you here to this role, and why this Commonwealth attorney role, why it's so important in the work that you're doing.
Sure. Well, I'm originally from Ohio. I went to school in Washington, D.C., and then law school down in Florida, where I met my husband. I followed him up to Virginia, and that's where he grew up and ended up in Hanover County. Been a prosecutor for 16 years, and I've been in Hanover for about 12. And I took over as the elected Commonwealth attorney when my former boss retired 2.5 years ago. So that's how I arrived here. But I've always been a prosecutor. I'm very passionate about community impact and speaking up for people who can't speak for themselves.
That's wonderful. And so, talk a little bit about the role that you're in, the importance of that, and what that means for citizens.
Sure. So, as the local elected prosecutor, and again, there's 120 of us throughout the Commonwealth. And Commonwealth attorney means the same thing as state attorney, which means the same thing as district attorney. It's just we're Commonwealth attorney, we're in a Commonwealth. We are the people who, at the local level, make sure that our community, our justice system is functioning properly, which means we're holding people accountable, we're creating safe communities, we're speaking up for victims. We do participate in the rehabilitation process. When somebody does commit a crime, they do come into the system. So we're looking at all of those things and weighing all of those things and trying to ensure a very delicate balance of community safety, victims' rights, and defendant accountability, or people who commit crimes accountability.
And can you talk about share with us what are the hot issues that really to do something like you're doing takes a lot of passion and a lot of feeling of purpose and I know that you are living that out and we want to hear about that. Also, if we could just pause for a second and go back, obviously one of the big issues was the redistricting effort, and I know you were involved in the redistricting effort a few years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that process? I think that would be interesting for a lot of people to hear. And now that led to this big redistricting and potential amendment that then got overturned by the Virginia Supreme Court. Take us a little behind the curtain of what that was like for you a few years ago.
Sure, I can talk generally
Generally.
about it, back only because I'm still technically on it, and so
Oh,
there were
great.
some issues with not kind of disclosing all of the ins and outs of what everybody was saying behind the closed doors or things like that. But uh, sure, back in 2021, there was the bipartisan redistricting commission that was created. It was a constitutional amendment. It was passed, I think, by 2/3 vote, and I was one of the 16 people that was put on this commission, one of 8 citizen appointees. It was perfectly balanced, 4 people that were Senate related Republicans, 4 people from each caucus, basically 2 legislators, 2 citizens from each kind of the 4 quadrants. And because it was perfectly balanced, it's very hard to tie break. We had a lot of great discussion. I think one of the big positives that came out of the commission, even though the 16 of us ourselves did not come up with the ultimate plan, and it ended up going to the Supreme Court, who created the maps. We made it very transparent. I don't think a lot of people understood really how this process went, and they really got in to see the dynamics and how lines are drawn, and how it is actually very important, impactful, who is drawing the lines and what criteria you're looking at. But I mean, we all agreed on criteria, political fairness, and you could still come up with several different versions of the map that could sway just politics for the next 10 years in the state. So that was very eye opening. I will say I knew nothing about it going into it, and I ended up being the co chair. And I still speak to my colleague on the other side, Greta Harris. She was Democrat co-chair, I was the Republican co-chair. We remained friends, and that was something also nice that came out of that is, you get to know people, you go through this very intense experience and learn a whole new subject. I was the youngest person on that commission. I was 36 when I was selected to put on, and it was a wild ride. So
That
then brought us to this most recent redistricting experience, which just let it play out when it, saw it go to the courts. The Supreme Court made their decision, and they were the ones that created the bipartisan, or I guess they didn't. They're the ones that ultimately put the fair maps as best they could when the bipartisan commission was unable to come to an agreement. So that was just very interesting to see play out, and I'm not going to comment any further
Yeah, it's okay.
on
Understand. I
that.
think most people are just unaware of all the work and the effort that goes into creating those lines and how much it impacts our daily lives as well as citizens living here. So thank you for your service and efforts on that as well. Just a little aside, and I want to talk about the topics that you're focusing on right now and some of the things you're passionate about that are driving you. But just thinking about more broadly what's happening in our country and just your thoughts on this. Are we really as divided as we seem, or we're being told to believe that we are, that everybody can't even have a conversation? We can't sit down and actually talk about the issues or talk about our values because, oh, you have a different letter by your name, so don't even have a conversation. I can't even talk to you. And you're kind of forced into your corner and then reinforced through algorithms, perhaps, of feeling like we're so pitted against each other? Or is there still a hope that we can get back to those first words in the Constitution, the we the people, and getting together, reasoning together? Do you think there's still hope?
Absolutely. But so I will say I don't have a problem talking to people from all walks of life. I don't care what letter's next to your name. A lot of people don't have any letter next to their name, or they're just apolitical and they want to talk about issues that impact them. And I think it's important to talk to people that you don't agree with or you think you don't agree with. I can find common ground with anyone. Just give me 10 minutes, I'll find something. And so, and it's enjoyable, it's eye opening, it's interesting and important, even if it can be hard. It can be hard. You may hear things that you don't want to hear, and that takes a little bit of just getting used to, of not lashing out and saying, no, you're wrong, and I want to argue on everything. Sometimes you just have to listen because somebody else went through something else that you did not go through, and that is impacting how
Mm.
they are viewing the world. And that's important when then you go back and reflect upon how you view the world. And when you're trying to find that common ground, saying maybe we don't actually disagree on this piece,
Mm.
but they're having a whole different thought and vision when we're talking about this topic than I am. And we need to get through that and make sure we're having the same conversation with the same words at the same time in the same space. And so I will liken it to a defense attorney and a prosecutor negotiating a plea agreement. Oftentimes, we will put something out there and say, hey, let's just say 90 days in jail. Okay. Let's say agree, plead guilty, 90 days in jail with all these other bells and whistles, and it's part of our standard plea agreement. And somebody comes back and says, no, I reject it. If I don't go back and have a conversation, why are you rejecting it? What about these other things? I can't tell you how many times somebody comes back and says, I just can't do the probation. And I go, oh, that's the issue? Well, I don't have a problem with probation. So let's talk about it. Now, do we have a deal? Oh, yeah, sure. So we can arrive at a better place if we continue the conversation and don't just shut down because the initial disagreement seems like it's insurmountable. So I do have hope. I think there needs to be a constant commitment to conversation and a willingness for just everyone to be open to new conversations and different perspectives that they just may not have considered before.
Hmm. Absolutely. What a beautiful thing to say. And the founding of our country, is built on this and these ideas. And it's just so important. So I know you're on the front lines. Let's jump into some of the top issues what's driving you to be in the role that you're in. I know there are some really important issues that you're working on. Can you share with us, talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I'll say at its most, there's kind of the more higher level. I like to help people. I want to have a safe community. I have 3 kids that are growing up in my community. So very, very specifically at the granular level, things I do in my community from a criminal justice standpoint are going to make my community safe for not just everybody, but my children who are 7 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. So there is that probably is the most basic driving force for me when, you're looking at internet crimes, human trafficking, domestic violence, child abuse. All of these things are directly related to the safety of, fentanyl. That's the thing that keeps me up at night. Or, my kids are they're in middle school, they're approaching that age where one pill can kill or it only takes one. We saw those campaigns. That is so scary, and I will be here as long as Hanover will have me to do my best to really, I mean, I'm protecting my kids, and hopefully everybody else is, not leaving a man on the field here. So that's why I do what I do. But
It's wonderful.
there are certainly other things that
Yeah,
I think are
I know we
important
want
for
to
the.
talk about victim rights as well. Is really passionate area for
Yes.
you that you're focused on, and I just love that bringing back to the humanity of why you do what you do, and getting back to that is so beautiful, and having that core foundation. Um, I've talked with we're talking with this rising generation, and they're looking for hope and meaning and purpose, and you see the data that's showing that this generation is feeling the loneliest of any generation. They're feeling disconnected from one another and lacking purpose. What would you say to someone who's looking to go into this field? I know I'm just a little off to the side, but speaking about children and the
Sure.
youth, what would you say to someone that's looking to go into this criminal justice field? And I know I've talked with young people in our district and in our area that are really passionate and want to. How would you encourage them to approach this journey from your perspective?
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunities. You don't have to be a prosecutor. You could be a probation officer. You can be a mental health person. Our local our CSB, the Community Services Board. You can work for DJJ. There are so many places in our system, especially with juveniles, and that is my background before I took over as elected, is the Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court. That was the place that you can do the most good and create the most change and have the most impact on an individual child or person's life, and you know trying to figure out what is the problem, how can we help. You're not going to be successful every time, but for the ones that you can create an impact, it's almost overwhelming sometimes of just how wonderful that can be, and it's good for the soul to be able to use the resources and say, this is, you're coming into the court system, but we've got some resources. We can do some rehabilitation, and we can use this and leave you kind of better off than where you were. But it does take a deep dive. It does take people who really care. I happen to be surrounded by a lot of service providers and people who care in Hanover County in those positions, which is just, there's an amazing team of people here to work with. And again, you can't get to everybody, but you can really do a lot of good in this system. And there's so many different places that you can do it. So if you ever have any young people who are asking those questions, what you can do is tell them to email me, and I am happy to find them a place if they'd like to explore something in the criminal justice system. And I have relationships with all of our schools around here, higher education, who are all working on this too. We really want to invest in our next generation's participation in the system to make it always be making it better.
I love that. And I love your approach to there's so many ways to get involved. There's not just one path. And a big part of what we've been focusing on with our campaign is the America made by us, and getting back to the we the people, getting back to the problem solvers and the doers, and not just saying, well, there must be some government program for that. There must be some government solution only. But as you're talking about all these providers and these holistic services, really addressing the whole life, um, that's so wonderful to hear. And I know that's a big part of your approach too, when you talk about
Mhm.
victim rights, and not just quote getting the bad guy, so to speak, but also having this more holistic approach to recovery and beyond. So can you talk about, help us understand that, and talk a bit about what you're working on?
Sure. Working on quite a few things, but one of the spaces, which is actually very complicated, is because a lot of our victims are also charged and in our system already, and that's human trafficking. But and that's a whole other topic, so I'm not going to get into that. But as part of that, We are, really partnering with people in the community, not just the community, regionally. I've got partners down in the Tidewater area. We're on Zooms. Uh, Government cannot fix this alone. It's got to be these public-private partnerships where we're all working together. Everybody's doing their little part. We're exchanging good ideas, and um, just making sure we're leaning on our community service providers. I have a number of incredible community partners that just they rise to the task. They're there to serve our community, and we talk all the time. And it's, what kind of trends are you seeing? How can we adjust our process? And that's them talking, saying what can we do? What can we add so that we're better serving the populations that you're seeing and covering the trends in our community? But that's part of that multidisciplinary approach where everyone's communicating and everybody has their role to play. So you need both. You need the good ideas, you need the local organization and the energy, and then the community partners rising to the task, and also full of passionate people willing to give their time and energy. Everybody's underpaid, whether you're in the government part or you're in the community part, the nonprofit space. Everybody's just doing their best to move the balls forward here on not just prosecuting people, but helping those that are the survivors of a lot, just the leftovers. The case ends, and then what happens? You're still victimized, you're still traumatized. So now what? And that's where we really lean heavily on our community partners.
I love that. And you mentioned, I know you kind of hit on human trafficking a little bit there. And for most people, living their life and not affected by something like this could feel like, oh, that's something that happens on the other side of the world. That's something that feels so disconnected. Can you help kind of inform and educate us on what's going on and what can be done about it?
Yes. So for a very long time, I think human trafficking was more, you think Liam Neeson, you think Taken, and somebody's going to drug you while you're in Europe and you're never going to be seen again. Not that that doesn't happen, but what we're seeing more here domestically, and I'm gonna be very, I'm going to specify the sex trafficking piece because there's a labor trafficking side with different dynamics, and that is a whole other can of worms that needs a lot of attention. And we're kind of behind the eight ball on that. There's a lot of work to be done, but I think it's very difficult to do all of it at the same time. So with sex trafficking, there's our kids really are at risk from social media and people on the internet. You no longer have to leave your house to be at risk of somebody influencing you. And there's a lot of at-risk youth and factors that are in school. Do you have are you living in poverty? Are you LGBTQ community? That is a risk factor. Have you been sexually abused in the past? There's grooming behaviors that happen. There's a whole litany of factors that make our youth susceptible and vulnerable to people coming in and convincing them to come out, and what looks to be willing participation in a lot of these things. It's a different form of force and coercion. That's not as it doesn't look like force and coercion until you talk to some of these people afterwards, where they just truly did not believe that they had another choice, and they're kind of funneled and they gravitate towards these people who know exactly what they're doing, and they're recruiting your kids to just get involved in this lifestyle. And it's hard to get out. It's set up that way, and the impact just lasts so long. I was just talking to a survivor who, her credit was destroyed, and she had a felony on her record because that's how it was set up, to keep her from leaving that lifestyle. So now, 20 years later, she's still being impacted by that. And there's many of her out there. So that's what you're looking at. And I'm not doing a great job of explaining it right in this moment with a few minutes. We're having a summit coming up where we'll be having all the explanations. June 11th at Randolph-Macon, where a lot of the service providers and our partners are coming in to really just get granular and talk about all the little things we're doing to
Amazing.
address your susceptibility of kids, and how to stop the cycle and protect your kids in this digital age when it's just tough. If you're not there staring at them, they're getting input from all sorts of directions, and it's not good. It's not a good situation.
Well, thank you. Can you share more about that summit? What is the date again and the location?
Oh, sure. It's at Randolph Macon. It's all day. It's June 11th. We did ultimately, we've closed registration, but if there's anybody who's feeling particularly passionate, we can squeeze them in if they want to email me and would like. It's open to the public. It's free. There's a lunch, and it is regional. So it's part of our MDT process where everybody can come together and network and exchange ideas and come up with good ideas because we're all sitting in the room together and talk about trends. And a lot of it will be used to inform our state partners of what we need at the local level and how we can be supported by our state agencies, as opposed to, you and I have talked about this before, a top down approach, which I do not think works, where the state comes in and says we're going to mandate everybody do it this way. I don't think that works. It's local solutions, local energy, and then we say, what do you guys need? How can we help? And we tell you, this is how you can help. Here's our resource gaps. Here's a program that worked. Let's scale it up. We need your help. Bring in some training, that kind of thing. So
I love that. That
that's
is
the
that's
concept.
wonderful to hear, and so that let's jump in and work together to be part of the solution in our community. I think is so wonderful, and it's a win-win-win. It allows you to help members of your community. It helps strengthen you, helps you be more aware as well. So it's a wonderful opportunity to engage, and it helps all these organizations get to know each other, how to work
Mhm.
together, and ultimately help the lives and the families and the individuals in our community. So thank you for being open about that. I know some people feel like even in Congress, I don't know if can I talk to my member of Congress, or can I talk to these people? And so I love that you're being open about this and engaging, and being proactive about, including the community to be part of the solution. That's so wonderful and so encouraging. And we're applauding for you and thankful for you. What are other things anyone should be aware of, or ways to support or work together or help you as we wrap up? I know we only have a couple minutes here, but just wanted to give another opportunity how to connect with you, how to connect with the work you're doing, and maybe other local resources across the district, because we have the seventh district is very big. So any other thoughts on ways that individuals who could, or organizations or business owners could connect and be part of these solutions?
Uh, Honestly, I think just the connection is the initial step, is reaching out. I'm always willing to take a phone call, set up a meeting. Often I have no idea what somebody's going to come in and say. I will say yes to anybody who would like to come talk to me. Um, I'll go speak at anywhere where I'm invited, just to get information out. And always think, put names with faces. I don't think I've never left a meeting thinking that was a waste of time. Everyone has something to offer, every way. And it's amazing, if you don't see it right in that moment, it'll be years down the line where you cross paths with that person again and you remember each other and you go on to do something really cool. And so I've had so many experiences like that, where I've gotten into something because of a just a fortuitous meeting. I can even say 10 years ago, I had one that put me into that brought me into the Virginia State Bar. So now I'm more active in the Virginia State Bar, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. It was eye opening there. So just make the connection. If you've got something to say, send me an email, give me a call, and we'll figure out something we can work on together. Is my viewpoint, even if it's not obvious right in that moment. It's just connect.
I love it. I'm so grateful for you and your approach. I think it's so refreshing for people to hear, "Hey, come talk to me." It can feel like the government is some abstract thing, that some machine, and there's just real people like you with a heart that care and genuinely want to improve outcomes. So, thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for your time today. I know we've got to jump. You got another call, but I just
Yes.
thankful for
No,
the
thank you
time
for doing this.
and look
This
forward to
is
much
fun.
more together.
Wonderful. Good luck and have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thank you very
Okay.
much. Hey, one more quick question. We got 1 minute.
Yes.
One of the big things we're
Mhm.
focused on is family. And do you agree,
Sure.
if we can strengthen and celebrate the family, we could solve most of the downstream issues in our society?
I think you can solve a lot of them. Most, I think, you're always going to have financial needs, and I think that your family can only be but so strong if you're financially struggling, and
Yep.
so that has to be addressed. Affordability's got to be addressed, but yes, a lot of our issues that we're seeing in the community is it's because people do not feel connected, supported, and they've got nowhere to turn. So if you strengthen your family, then you've got, you've got your tribe, you've got your people, and then you have your safe place. And it's the kids need the safe place to go with their family. Spouses need to be able to go home and feel good with their partner when they go out into the community to do their job. So yes, I think it all goes together, and that is a wonderful place to start. We have to do a lot of things, but that would be a really wonderful place to actually be intentional and focus on just, prioritizing your family and going back to that. Family dinners. I love a family dinner. I don't get to have as many as I'd like to, but man, when we have them, it's amazing. And just asking my child, what did you do today? Caring, so they get to know that I care. Who are your friends? How was your day? How was school? Just those types of things to strengthen those little things that you can do, that the cumulative effect will be much larger. And I think everyone will be better for it.
Well, thank you. Let's keep going. Have a great day. Thanks for all you're
You
doing.
too.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye.